Today, we're diving into something incredibly powerful that's been happening online, and it involves Meghan's mother, the absolutely amazing Doria Ragland. So, what happened? Well, reports surfaced that Thomas Markle, Meghan's estranged father, had a serious health crisis requiring a leg amputation in the Philippines. And as always happens when it comes to Meghan, the vultures immediately circled. The critics came out in full force, once again trying to paint Meghan as cold, heartless, and uncaring. But here's the thing, they're wrong. And the truth, as always, is so much more complicated and so much more beautiful than the hate-filled narrative they're trying to push. Let's start with the facts. When news broke about Thomas Markle's health crisis, Meghan's spokesperson immediately confirmed that she had reached out to her father. Let me repeat that. She reached out. Despite everything, despite years of public betrayal, despite him selling stories to the tabloids, despite him staging paparazzi photos right before her wedding, despite him giving interview after interview criticizing her, Meghan still tried to make contact when she heard he was in medical distress. But did the media lead with that? Did the critics acknowledge her compassion? Of course not. Instead, they launched what can only be described as a coordinated smear campaign, painting her as an insensitive daughter who had abandoned her father in his time of need. The hypocrisy is absolutely staggering. Now, let's talk about context, because context matters. Meghan and Thomas Markle have been estranged since right before her wedding to Prince Harry in 2018. And this wasn't Meghan's choice. Thomas Markle admitted to staging photographs with paparazzi for money, then claimed ill health and said he couldn't attend the wedding. This was supposed to be one of the most important days of his daughter's life, and he chose tabloid money and drama over being there for her. But it didn't stop there. Since that wedding, Thomas Markle has given countless interviews to tabloid media, criticizing Meghan, making claims about her, and essentially providing ammunition for every online troll and tabloid writer who wants to tear her down. He's been a willing participant in the very machine that has tormented his daughter for years. And yet, when he faced a health crisis, Meghan reached out. That tells you everything you need to know about who Meghan really is. Now, here's where this story gets really powerful. As the smear campaign against Meghan ramped up online, her supporters fought back by highlighting the incredible example set by her mother, Doria Ragland. And honestly, the contrast couldn't be more stark. Fans began sharing clips from the Harry and Meghan documentary on Netflix, where Doria speaks about her own experience being harassed by paparazzi and tabloid reporters. In these clips, you can see and hear the pain in her voice as she describes what she went through. Doria explains how she couldn't even walk her dog or go to work without being followed and stalked. She describes being pulled over by paparazzi who offered her money, substantial money, to sell stories about her daughter. And here's the key moment. One of these photographers literally told her, "You know I want to get a story, and you know you can get a lot of money for this." Think about that for a second. This is a woman who worked as a social worker and yoga instructor. She wasn't wealthy. The money they were offering could have changed her life. And what did she do? She refused. Completely. Totally. Without hesitation. As Doria says in the clip, and I'm paraphrasing here, she just looked at them and thought, "This is my child. I have nothing to say." That right there is what real parental love looks like. That's what protection looks like. That's what loyalty looks like. One of Meghan's fans perfectly captured this contrast when they shared Doria's clip with this caption: "Never forget the tabloids stalked Mama Doria and offered her money to sell out her own daughter. She refused. No leaks, no briefings, no betrayal. Only protection and love. That's what a real parent does." Can you feel the power in that statement? Because I certainly can. While Thomas Markle was staging paparazzi photos and giving paid interviews to tabloids, Doria Ragland was being offered money and saying no because that's her child and she would never betray her. While Thomas was providing quotes that would be weaponized against Meghan for years, Doria maintained her dignity, her silence, and her unwavering support for her daughter. The comparison writes itself. One parent chose money, attention, and tabloid fame. The other chose love, protection, and loyalty. One parent has been part of the problem, feeding the machine that has caused Meghan so much pain. The other parent has been stalked, harassed, and offered bribes, and still refused to say a single negative word. And this brings us to the bigger picture here. The treatment of Meghan has been relentlessly unfair from the beginning. She's been criticised for things that other royals do without comment. She's been accused of being difficult, demanding and cold when she's shown nothing but grace under impossible pressure. And her own father has been a willing participant in this campaign against her. But through it all, she's had Doria. She's had a mother who understands what real love means, who knows that protecting your child isn't conditional on whether they're famous or whether you can profit from them. Doria has shown us what unconditional parental love looks like in the modern media age, and it's beautiful. When fans defend Meghan by pointing to Doria's example, they're not just defending Meghan. They're holding up a mirror to Thomas Markle and to the tabloid media and saying, this is how you're supposed to act. This is what real integrity looks like. And let's talk about Meghan's character for a moment. Despite everything, despite the betrayals and the public humiliation, despite her father literally profiting off tearing her down, she still reached out when she heard he was ill. She still cared enough to try to make contact during his medical crisis. That's not the action of a cold or heartless person. That's the action of someone who, despite being hurt repeatedly, still has compassion and still cares about family. Several fans have pointed this out online, noting that Meghan has always been a caring daughter, and that she's not to blame for her father's choices. And they're absolutely right. Meghan didn't force Thomas Markle to stage paparazzi photos. She didn't force him to give tabloid interviews. She didn't force him to skip her wedding. Those were his choices, and she's been dealing with the consequences ever since. The fact that the tabloid media and her critics tried to blame her for this broken relationship is just another example of the unfair, biased treatment she's received from day one. We also need to talk about the media's role in all of this. The British tabloids, in particular, have been absolutely relentless in their coverage of Meghan, and they've used Thomas Markle as their weapon of choice. They've published his statements, given him platforms, and essentially encouraged his behaviour because it sells papers and gets clicks. They've never cared about the impact on Meghan or on the relationship between father and daughter. They've only cared about the story, about the drama, about maintaining their narrative that Meghan is somehow the villain in all of this. And that's disgusting. The same tabloids that stalked Doria and offered her money are the ones publishing Thomas Markle's attacks on his daughter. The same outlets that have made millions off negative Meghan stories are the ones clutching their pearls and acting concerned about Thomas Markle's health. The hypocrisy is breathtaking. So where does this leave us? It leaves us with a clear picture of who the real heroes are in this story. Doria Ragland, who chose love over money, protection over fame, and dignity over tabloid attention. Meghan Sussex, who despite years of abuse from her father and the media, still reached out during his health crisis. And Harry, who has stood by his wife through all of this, understanding what it means to protect the people you love from a toxic media environment. The contrast between Doria's example and Thomas Markle's behaviour couldn't be clearer. And the fact that Meghan's critics tried to use this situation to attack her once again just shows that they're not interested in truth or fairness. They're only interested in continuing their campaign of negativity. But we see through it. The people who support Harry and Meghan see through it. And we're going to keep telling the truth, keep defending them, and keep pushing back against the lies and the smears. If this video resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up and share it with others who need to hear this perspective. And if you want to support this channel and help us keep creating content that stands up for Harry and Meghan, there are several ways you can do that. You can use the Super Thanks button right here on YouTube, you can support us through PayPal, or you can buy us a coffee. All the links are in the description below. Every bit of support helps us continue this important work and keep bringing you the truth about Harry and Meghan. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. We've got so much more content coming that you won't want to miss. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, the truth always wins in the end. We'll see you in the next video.